Hi everyone and welcome, and you find yourself staring at a random cardboard box, which means the art store has delivered, and that's always a good day. This is going to be a bit of a ramshackle one to get out because the box is just not the right height for going under my camera and it opens from the top, so we'll do our best and I'm sure you will bear with me. And let's just straighten the camera up. How about we do that? How about we do this professionally? That'd be a nice change, wouldn't it? It's art haul day and I've got some nice things in here which we can have a look at. I've forgotten what's in here myself, to be fair. You know how it is. You sort of order stuff and then when it gets here, it's a nice surprise because you've completely forgotten about what's in there. Just before we get on to this, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe and a comment if you have the time. All of that really helps my channel, which means that more people get to see this stuff. And if you like what you see here and you would like to see it used somewhere, do consider joining my Patreon, which have all the details for that is in the description box. And my Patreon is a teaching thing. I run it like an art school. So basically I do art tutorials on there, video art tutorials. They're all done in English, and that's where you can get, you learn all of the things that you see me painting. I teach it all on there. Gosh, the rain is really just tumbling down at the moment. Very nice. Garden needs it. I'm at that age. Right, so with the housekeeping out the way, let us see what's in this box. And like I said, I'm going to do this in a rather unconventional way, and I've got to do it reasonably quiet so that I don't crackle paper, because Daisy, my Cocker Spaniel, is asleep. And if she hears crackling paper, she'll be over here demanding the box. Right, got some interesting stuff in here that I've never used before. Nope, she's still, I thought that was going to be I'm just really carefully taking everything out because everything crinkles really loudly, especially, gosh, when you don't want it to. That's when it crinkles the loudest. Okay, we're at the bottom. Just take these out and then I can put the box aside. Because again, if she gets that or realizes that there is a box, more loudness. Right, so we've got all these things. It's quite a nice haul. Nothing is what it seems. Don't believe the boxes. Let's have a look at some of the ones we can actually see here. This one, I've got a pan pastel to go with my kit of pan pastels because they're fabulous, and I'm loving these dark purples at the moment and grape colors because they go so well with the autumn golds and the green golds that we see here. I'm in Germany, so you know the sorts of green golds that we see around here. This is just perfect. Goes lovely with it. I'm actually, gosh, can I grab that without upsetting the dog or the box? I'm actually working on this morning. It's just completely plain, but going to add some more animals to it and cutting it. Found a knife that I'd forgotten I bought, so I've been cutting absolutely everything out. I've got a little wild pig and a squirrel to go on that, but it folds up, and I don't know, not wild about seeing the back of it. Probably paint the back as well, or who knows, but anyway, it's fun. But I'm probably going to do this with my Patreon students if they would like to do it, so they're seeing this video first, so give us a shout. These blackberries, these are nice, really easy to do. Anyway, purple goes with gold and green gold. That was the point of that. Plus I like looking at it because it's something different and it was relaxing. So pan pastel, first off, this great big thing here is a special pencil sharpener for wax crayons. And of course, for most of that, we're talking about Neocolors. With these are Neocolor 2s, and I keep the shavings because you don't want to waste anything. It's easy enough the first time you do it, but as it goes on, it gets a little bit contaminated with other colours. And I'm not buying one for every single one I've got. So You have to clean it a fair bit, but don't throw the shavings out if you use it for these pastels, because you can mix water with it and create paint and still have some of your lovely colours, especially since I know that the 50th anniversary colours, when they're gone, they're gone. They're not bringing them in open stock. They are not going to they're not going to continue them and put them in a special box of you know, colours either. They're finished. And I'm really annoyed about it because I've fallen in love with the Caput Mortem one and I'm watching it ebb away as I use it. So I'm not enjoying using it because I'm worried that it's going to run out like any minute. So yeah, I'm not wasting any bit of that, so I will keep the shavings. I've never shaved, I don't usually do that, but if I do, I've got that and I can keep the shavings. So yes, I'm terribly sorry to tell you that, but it's from the horse's mouth. Right, what have we got here next? Oh, we've got another bag. Let's do that one. Grab my small scissors. This is a replacement, so not as interesting as it could be. I mix a nice dark green, or I like it. I'll show you in a second when we get to that bit. And these three things are the ingredients for that dark green. I'm taking a punt, but yes, I'm right. Liquitex Transparent Burnt Umber. Amsterdam Acrylic Ink Olive Green Deep. The deep bit is important. And FW by Dale Rowney Payne's Grey. That's the actual mixture that I use. I've put some into some very, very cheap markers here. Let me see if I can get one to actually work and find some paper. Who would have thought you don't have paper at an art desk? But you know how it is. This is the green it mixes. And apparently comes undone as well. It's a really lovely deep, deep dark green. And I'm very thingy about my greens, especially, more than any other colour. Actually, I like all muted colours, but greens are important. So that's the green I mix from these three. Right, I'll just grab the nearest one here, shall I? Let's see. This won't necessarily be watercolours, and it certainly isn't Daniel Smith in a tube this big. They charge the absolute earth for them. I'm sure they're worth it. This is a lichen green. It is a smalt blue, and it is a pink gouache. And I've been sorting out my gouache pans just recently because my old one is famously really, really untidy and disordered. So I've bought some more that I'm likely to use, and these can go in as well. And yeah, so some gouache, very nice. We'll see what colours they are in a bit. This one is a My Merry box, but I can't imagine what's in it. A grey number 3 gouache, an ash blue gouache, and a little Holbein watercolour in Mars Violet, which is another one of my beloved colours. So whilst we're on that, we know what's in these. Let's grab a few more. I'm sort of thinking more of autumn now, even though we've got a month left of summer. It's the 1st of August when I'm filming this. So technically we've got a month left of whatever this sort of summer is. It's just, well, we've just had a huge downpour. So yeah, brilliant pink, rose brilliant, rose pink. I don't remember ordering that. I really don't, because again, pinks, I'm not sure about some of them, but that's also a Holbein gouache, and a Peroline black Winsor & Newton gouache, and a pale rose blush Winsor & Newton gouache. I'm having to be a little bit careful about these choices because what I've done, can I grab, you may hear an almighty crash in a second. What I've done is I've found these tins. There'll be a whole video on this for my Patreons in a couple of weeks' time about the recipes I've used, because I've made the dark green. This is the dark green that I make with the inks. I also make it with gouache, and they know that. Some of these colours, like I've made that one, and that one. So I've got recipes for those three. But some of these others, and that's not a brilliant example, some of these colours are extremely similar and don't need to sort of be repeated. For example, the Talons Yellow Ochre and the Talons Raw Sienna, probably either or of those would have done, and Talons Vermilion and Talons Orange. There's not a lot of pick in them either, and that's just within the one brand. So I've got a few more of these as well. But sometimes I've had two brands that are different with different colours, and yet the colour is almost identical when I got it home, which makes me feel as though I've cheated myself or been cheated. Who knows? I'll figure out who to put the blame on at some point. Okay, these are watercolours. These are Van Gogh watercolours, and considering the low price point, these are about €3 for quite a large amount. And this, I think, was more for a lot less. This has got 3 times the amount. I like them. I really do like them. And I don't want to be snobby about these sorts of things. As long as it is a good quality with reasonable light fastness, which these have, I'm quite happy to accept it into the kit. I don't necessarily want to use all handmade watercolors, because I notice a lot of artists and influencers at the moment are talking about these handmade watercolors, and to be quite brutally frank, they're not accessible for everybody. Not everybody can afford to pay almost €20 or £20 or $20 for a half pan of a handmade watercolor. I wish we all could. Wouldn't that be fabulous? But the reality of it is we can't. So there's no point getting brilliant results. Not that the watercolor type is the reason for the brilliant results. You know, you may have a rare talent. The people may have a rare talent. Whoever's using them may have a rare talent. But in actual fact, quite a lot of it is down to the product, because there have been endless YouTube videos, and huge value they are too, about using really, really cheap products like the usual Crayola versus something else. Crayola seems to crop up a lot because, of course, it is a children's brand and it's quite cheap, and the pigments aren't quite up to snuff, because that's actually what you're paying for with most of these art materials, are the pigments. So, I know that is a factor, and there have been plenty of videos done to compare the two. However, there's also a middle set. You've got these extremes, like the children's throwaway stuff up one end, with edible crayons and things in it, and the other end you've got the really high-end stuff that's made by the Pope, which is lovely, except it's really quite expensive, and it adds up to a lot of people wishing that they could do it, but they just can't. So yeah, rant over. Thank you so much for listening. I don't want to make the whole video too much of a rant, but I don't mind some of these middle brand watercolors, and Van Gogh has been a very nice one. They're dusk yellow. Oh my God, it is so nice. It's one of those really deep, very deep and moody watercolors. I shall see if I can find something in a second with it in, so that I can show you what I mean. Okay, the next box looks like very much more of the same. Yep, this is the same, only different. This one is a Mugello Mission, and I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. It is a Korean firm, so they may be pronouncing things slightly differently. I've got ochre yellow, flame red, and gold brown yellow. I love these paints. They're absolutely beautiful. They are super granulators, or at least they're granulators, and very nice. Lovely quality, beautiful colours, and even if in some situations they don't granulate the way you would like them to, they're still beautiful colours, and we'll see that in a minute when we swatch them. I have all of these, and I use them anyway, even if they don't do what is expected, because I don't work on rough watercolour paper, which is what granulating watercolour needs. A couple of things. Number one, it needs plenty of room. It needs to be able to swim, so it needs plenty of water, and it needs to, it just needs the right paper, and the right paper turns out to be the really heavy cold pressed water paper with lots and lots of texture, which for mixed media does not work, because you can still put stuff on there, but the texture is wrong and you can't put any detail on at all. So that's not what I'm about. And I can show you a couple of examples of what I do when we get to that bit. But you want to have plenty of layers. My goodness, I'm making such a mess of this box. You need plenty of layers to get the effects that I like to have. Oh, there we go. There it is. And rough wallpaper. I'm looking at the wall as I'm speaking, so that sort of on the level with the camera. It's all very technical over here. The rough sketchbook paper and watercolor paper doesn't work. I use a smooth one and it's better. Right, and they do actually granulate. This is an intense block, ink tense block that is. It is leaf green, which is my favourite out of all the greens. Again, that moody green that is the, it sort of follows me everywhere. I love it. And these are fabulous in the pencil form, which are, this is orange, but this is what you're looking for. They're fabulous. They're watercolor pencils, and you can use them dry, of course. And I wanted something that allowed me to make marks on a slightly larger scale for backgrounds and textures. And I thought, well, I'll go with this green first. Right, what have we got here? Yes, I topped up the rest of my Neocolor ones because these are the non-water soluble one. Did I get two of that? No, one's ultramarine, one's dark ultramarine. I've got nearly all of them. Full set syndrome here. I'm no good for that. If you're suffering from full set syndrome, then I'm not the one to help you with that. I'm an enabler. And in fact, now I've had all week to come up with this, so I hope you like it. I've decided that why I need full sets of everything is because I'm art supply deficient. That's a new disease. Just putting my medical hat on for a minute, and I do have a medical background, so I'm quite qualified to say that many of us, what we're suffering from is art supply deficiency, because our bodies can't make art supplies. And when you get into that sort of situation, you have to make sure that you're supplementing yourself to stay healthy. I also have a book deficiency because I'm not producing books either. I'm sort of getting old, and the body just doesn't work like you want it to after 50. So we have to turn to supplementation. So, and this is how I'm doing it. So yeah, I'm saying this with a perfectly straight face. Yeah, so this is self-medicating, because like I said, I'm the worst enabler you're going to come up against. So please come and join my full set syndrome support group. You're not going to get any better. In fact, most people there have backslid quite alarmingly, but we do have a lot of fun, so you're more than welcome. Right, back with the program. This is the rest of the full set syndrome haul for my Neocolor ones. Now, these are not water soluble like Neocolor 2, but they're fabulous for making a resist, which you can then paint over. And yeah, there's some nice colors here. There's a couple that I'm not sure I'd use an awful lot, but full set syndrome, I buy all of them and then I learn to love them somehow. It doesn't always work, but we're going to just keep doing it because one day it might. Gambler's fallacy, that's handy. This is a replacement Caran d'Ache Neo Art 6901. These are the new wax and oil pastels that they've got out, and they're absolutely wonderful. So yeah, I go through the whites quite a bit. What is this? This will be a pencil of some sort. It is. It's a natural brown Derwent Lightfast, also a replacement, and these are as well. Because I go through them. Oh, they're also alive, which is great. Get rid of all that. Dog's still asleep. Yes. Oh, it's amazing what wakes her up. I have a Raw Umber Luminance. I have a Derwent Lightfast in Mars Black. I have a Carmine Lake in Luminance, Autumn Brown, Natural Brown, both Derwent Lightfast. Raw Umber 50%, Caran d'Ache Luminance. Burnt Ochre 50%, another Caran d'Ache. Midnight Black, which is a Derwent Lightfast. Caran d'Ache Luminance in Normal Black. Warm Earth 5% and a Sepia 50%. And this is the world I paint, this colour. natural colours. Autumn is my season, and I love winter as well. What's in here? Right. Oh, a couple of brushes. I did forget about those. These are scumbling brushes, Princeton Select Scumblers, and my Patreons have put me onto these because I like using, can't even find it, I like using this, which is a dome blender from DecoArt. And it's a DecoArt Traditions, and I'm not sure these are available anymore at all. They're certainly not available outside the US. So if you're in that hallowed ground, you may find them. Have a look on the DecoArt website. Otherwise, my students tell me these Princeton ones are very good. So I have bought a couple of them, and we shall see. I look forward to trying those because they're great for effects. Moving on, I bought some Tombos, which will go into my swatch book. And again, just sort of keeping the collection going. So sometimes I will buy an entire collection at once. Other times I will just buy some from time to time until I've got the whole lot. But whole lot is still the end goal. So we've got some Lyras here. Orange Light. A Tombow 991, which is looks like a straw yellow. A Tombow 062, 098, 243. I know that one's Celadon because I remember putting it on, or it could be mint. I don't like, they could, look, if Lyra can do it, why can't Tombow just put it on the barrel? 993. And of course, the claim to fame here is they've got a brush end, one end, and they've got this nice small end, the other one. And I'll show you in a sec when we get through these what I've been using these for. Really nice stuff for late summer. This one is a Tombow 977, Lyra Rose Carmine, Waterbank 20020 Tombow, a Lyra, basically some sort of grain color. It's not there in German and it's not there in English, so that's unusual. Normally the languages that I can sort of do, they usually have them, especially for something like that. Anyway, Warm Grey Deep, Lyra Aquid Brush Duo, again same as the Tombow. You've got the big end and the small end, and they're fabulous. And what I use them for is stuff like this. These are a couple of tutorials over on my Patreon. This one is wren poses, and this one here is a blackbird in clover and grass. And I've used Tombow and Lyra to do all these background grasses. I'm not sure if there's any more. Yeah, that one, that's another one. Yeah, some of these very indistinct grasses and things like that, they're in the background, and they're quite boring colours quite as a rule, because I think that one had another one. There's another one here. Hang on. This one's better, perhaps. You can see here all of these colours. They're quite boring colours, pale greens, beiges, greys, but they're absolutely necessary to fill in background. Because as I've said to my patrons before, I mean, just speak about amongst yourselves, guys, because you see this and you've heard it so many times. You've got to have a supporting act for your main event. And see, you don't want things just fighting with each other for center stage. So when you make a composition like this, it's really nice to have a few things that are in the background and stay there. They don't need to come to the front and compete. So you've got all this sort of ethereal grass in the background. This is a sort of a bug's eye view of what we might have on our lawns. I'm not sure. See, here's another one. And this is the actual tutorial that, the step-by-step. It's really important to have a selection of beigey colours. That sort of thing. No, not so much. And that's that one. So never underestimate these sorts of things. I mean, some of these are quite nice, actually. They're yellows and colours in their own right. Some of them are invisible. They're practically invisible. They're so boring, but they come together to make the scene. So they're necessary, and they will add very nicely to the mix. This is some Indian ink to replace some of mine that has, it's almost used, just plain black Indian ink. And another one which is slightly different style of Indian ink, but also claiming to be exactly the same thing. What have we got here? Black Indian ink, liquid Indian ink. Well, one hopes they're both liquid since I want to use them with my dip pen. We'll find that out in a second. And finally, one of my patrons told me, there are enablers everywhere, you know who you are. One of my patrons told me that our local art shop here in the German-speaking world had a special offer on these. They were 75% off Pantone markers. I've never used them before. Again, same deal, big one end, and wedge the other, but it's also small because you can use the edge of the wedge. I've bought a few colours that fit in with what I'm doing at the moment at this time of the year. And again, beiges, greys, warm greys and beiges. Something that might be overlooked, but is so useful to make a nice composition with. So that's the art haul. I'm going to grab some paper and we shall do some swatching. How about that? I have a book here. It's just usual 140 GSM Canson paper, which is not the most expensive, but perfectly good for swatching things. So let's have a look here and see. First, I'm going to go first with things like this here. These are the Neocolor ones, and there are some bright colours here. That's cobalt blue hue. Hue is important behind a name because it means it's not the original poisonous version. And cobalt, cadmium's your big one. Cadmium should be cadmium hue if you can manage it. Sometimes you can't, so don't leave it on your skin, and don't be careful using it if you're pregnant or breastfeeding. And this is me with my serious medical hat on this time, because it is not good for you or your baby, but for any of us at any life stage. Don't leave these things on your fingers. This here, for example, it's been on there long enough. It needs wiping off properly, washing properly if you possibly can, but at least wipe it off and don't leave it on your fingers. So yeah, hue is that's the hint that you've got a synthetic color and it's safer. They should all have ATSM or actually not ATSM, this AP non-toxic, things like that. Read all of these things, but look for hue because hue is important. Hue can be our hero. Vermilion. It's a nice sort of darker orange, really pops next to that blue as well. Sahara yellow, this is going to be a useful color. And here again, I have a few resist technique videos, which it's a technique that I've sort of, as far as I know, it's mine. I've been developing it for a while as well. Payne's Grey. And what you need for that are these non-water soluble pastels. And I use the Caran d'Ache 6901s, which are similar. And I understand, but I'm not particularly sure about, but I have heard that these might be phased out and these coming in their stead. So I like both. I like the colours in them and I'll use them, so I don't mind having them. Brown, very boring name when we've got all these other lovely names for everything, and that one's just brown. Ultramarine. And then a dark ultramarine. Both of these are useful. And a Prussian blue. Finally, carmine. Yeah, all of those would be very, very useful in the kit, the way I use it. Oh, wait a minute, we've got a black as well. I don't know why I didn't get black before. I normally do, but I didn't. So, you know, too fixated on whether the greens are nice as a rule. Going to stick those in there. Let's grab some pencils since we're doing it this way round. This one is the Burnt Ochre 50%. And it's one of those really lovely warming up colours. And I use that a lot with the Neocolor ones, as you can see how the resist technique works there if you've you know, get a bit of an idea of it, but there's much more information on videos. So these two colors, they go beautifully together, and especially, like I said, I'm one of the people who is wishing autumn to be, we need at least, I don't know, 17 months of the year should be autumn, I think. Let me know if you think that's worthwhile and we can get a petition going. Natural brown. Beautiful natural brown, very useful, that sort of thing. Mars Black, one of my favorites. I use this as a brown. I use it as a black color, but I also use it as a purple, because if you burnish over the top with anything that's white, it'll throw purple, and that's really quite useful sometimes. Autumn Brown, another one of these useful browns. So between the three of those, they fill in my need for very dark browns. This one's Warm Earth 5%, and I'm assuming you can see by the actual pencil that they're the two different brands that we discussed before. Midnight Black, which is actually a deep blue, which very nice. Sepia 50%, I use that in place of grey, even though it's sepia, which is technically a brown. This one here is Raw Umber 50%, also technically a brown. I use this as a grey because I'm not happy with a lot of the greys. I've got all of the expensive pencils you can imagine, and I'm not happy with all of the greys. So I use these as greys, and this is my third grey, which is Raw Umber, just normal Raw Umber. And yes, they're brown, but because I really, really love a warm grey, these three are perfect for that. So I use Mars Black as a brown, and these three here as greys. Carmine Lake, this is a useful colour, especially when you're painting things like foxes and squirrels that are red. It's quite nice for some deep dark shadows. And black, this is a regular black. I love this black from Caran d'Ache Luminance, but I also like the Derwent Light Fast Black. The Derwent Drawing Black is a lot creamier. That's this one here. It's very creamy, but it's also a bigger barrel and a bigger core. So if I want something a little bit smaller, I go with this one. If I need to cover space a bit quicker, then Derwent Drawing, because it's slightly larger and it does make a difference. Right, what else have we got here? Let's have a look at some of these. Very nice colours. This is 991, which looks very similar to that Sahara Yellow. It's a nice, bright, warm colour. And when I chose these, I had a look at what I needed. And then I thought about what I needed them for. And of course, as I've just showed you, grasses and things like that. This one here looks like a nice dark grey, which it is. It's a bit cooler grey than some of these others. Not technically grey, of course, they're brown, so, you know, being fair, but they still work together. This one, that's a bit bright, but every now and again you have a need for a bit bright. It just happens sometimes. This one's 098. It looks like one I've got already, actually. Lovely green. And Carmine Rose. Oh gosh, that's quite jarringly pink, but again, there are birds that colour. This is this one that I'm pretty sure is either Celadon or Mint. Again, with all of the natural things I paint, these two, sometimes you get pops of these colours, like I said, birds, or if you want to glaze something, that sort of thing. It's quite handy to have. This is light orange, which is, yeah, sort of Easter colours here. Well, Easter will come again, so I'm ready. 020, which looks like a cream ivory. See, I preferred the lid colour because I'm after this muted shade, but that's not too bad either. And all of these will make for nice grass. This one's 6.2, 0.62. Oh gosh, that is quite bright. They're not bad. They're not far away from the lids, but yeah, some of them will have to be pushed into shape. This one is this mystery yellow, apparently. I'm seeing a green. Yes, yellow steel de grain. I don't know, but that's green to me. But it's a very nice green, so we're having it. Doesn't matter. It really, you know, honestly, worse things happen at sea. We are not going to worry about it. This here is my nice block of ink tents, which you can either use to draw with or as I would like for texture, like so. You don't have to wet these out. You can actually rub them and the warmth of your finger will do things too, depending on what you're after. Let's just see if our brushes here, they're full of sizing. They might need a bit longer. But let's just grab another brush, because all we need is a little bit of water and we can get them to move about. And they're very richly coloured. This is, this paper's not really perfect for wet media, so it'll probably complain. They're really, really good because they're so highly pigmented, and like I said, that green is a really nice green, so it's good for doing, what have we got here? Hang on, sorry, this one again. These deep areas in a picture, you need a deep green. It's got to really look like if you're looking into the mouth of hell, to be fair. Just see how these are going. Yeah, that's better. They've always got something on them. I'll get some brush shampoo in a second. Right, let's have a look at these Pantone colours, because I've never ever used them, but they've been recommended and I think they're nice. They were a brilliant price, and we don't say no to art materials when they're all but being given away. I can feel the glue on my fingers. So this one is 1565, I believe. Yes, and no idea. But, right, we're doing the number thing. I wish they wouldn't, but there you go. They're not going to change it just for us. Orange. That's probably quite an intense orange, but nice. You haven't got much time to work with them, but they've definitely nice colours. Gosh, that's rich. Yeah. The colours are very, very important, because I think as an artist, that's probably one of the first things we all notice are the colours. Do we like the colours? Even before we've looked at anything else, the colours come up. Oh, wow, that's a nice one. And I like the fact you've got the wedge shape, because like I said, you've got the option of making a very fine line with a wedge shape. So you've got several faces on here where you can have different sort of different thicknesses of line. You get at least 3 from a wedge shape, so it's really quite good value. And the brush tip on the other end is always good as well. And that's kind of the same, isn't it? That's not bad though. Again, it's a nice beige, and you need beiges, especially if you are, it's got a different, slightly different colour each end. Actually, somebody the other day asked me about that, and I said it had never happened, but here it's happened. So today's the day. Nice. Wow, that is very different, the other end. Okay. Yeah, well, it's happening. I've never had it happen before, but now it's happening. Very different colours each end, very similar that way. I wonder, is it perfectly sort of mixed? How have they been stored? That sort of thing. We'll see. Oh, wow. That's a nice rich grey. Very nice. Again, slightly different. These others, they're the same. Exactly the same, in fact. But these have all been slightly different. You know what? The way I look at it is I got 2 brush markers. You know, 2 markers for the one. Nice rich brown. Very useful for doing things with roofs and trees and what have you. Like on there. Yeah. Not bad over the top of that. Or the coloured pencils, just having a little side play there, because this is what they will be having to do, is to be mixed with other media. Another nice rich dark grey, very similar to that one. If I didn't know better, I would say that they were the same, but they're not. Oh, this one's got warm grey written on it, so I'm not sure why they suspended the rules for that one, but well, we'll know warm grey when we see it. There. Oh, this one has as well, so maybe something about warm greys. All quite similar in this test. Right, another two different ends, and that's more like what I wanted. Sometimes it can be the delivery. Some of the tips deliver the product differently. It's pigment dependent as well, but normally, you know, you would expect the two ends to be similar, but it doesn't always happen. And this one is another nice rich brown. So yeah, I'm very pleased initially with what we've got here. Much bleed through a bit. It's kind of expected sometimes. Nice, look forward to those. Let's see how we're going with our brushes here, because they can be put to some good use in a second. They're quite a different bristle to the others, but I'm still looking forward to giving them their moment to shine. I won't ask them to do it with watercolor, and I will get the dip pen out first because I want to have a look at this Indian ink. So yeah, movements in the background here, rummaging around in drawers and what have you. Just getting a dip pen out. Well, this one's liquid at any rate. Nice. Yep, that's all it needs to be. It's nice to have lots and lots of fancy things, and I'm absolutely a fancy thing person, but sometimes what you need is some plain black ink, and that's what's required for the task at hand. And I tend to go through it. These were both branded differently, which I will have a look later on, but it doesn't matter because they'll both get used. Yep, exactly. No, perfectly nice. Good ink, and both liquid, so I don't know why one was marketed as liquid when I assumed both of them would be. Right, onto the pan pastel, and this is a nice dark, it's a violet extra dark. Nice, very nice. That will work well. I use these for skies. I use them for backgrounds. I particularly like, and I bet I can't get my hands on one very quick. What I don't like is putting the lid back on. Let me see if I can find a picture that I've done in here with that in the background. I bet I won't find a single one. Typical. That might be the best we've got. Maybe I'm just going to have to tell you about it. Oh, this is ridiculous. I really thought I had one in here out of all the places. But no, so what I'll have to do is this is quite close. What I do with this pan pastel is I will, because again, mixed media art, I'll use the pan pastel on the sky. So this definitely has. And then I will use the pan pastel for the background to make it look blurry. And that way, whatever I've put here as a focal point, the layer closest to us, is going to be done with different products. So I'll either do all pan pastel back here and gouache here, or I'll do pan pastel watercolor gouache. So gradually becoming more solid as it gets towards me. So the mediums that I use in the background, they're the most delicate, soft and precious ones, whereas the ones up the front here are the nice deep greens and dark colours, and that's what I quite often do that. I know where this one, just give me a minute. Gosh, if we ever sell this house, which we haven't at the time of filming, I have to move all this stuff at some point. Let me see if it's in here, because I really do want to, sorry about the fussy look through a sketchbook here. Here it is. This is what I'm talking about. So all of the sky is done with pan pastel because I really love the nice soft effect. Then I'll do all of this background also with pan pastel, only I'll swap and use one of these little makeup applicators, which I wash and use for ages. I've got a whole lot of those and a whole lot of the others, the wedges that you just saw me using. Wash them out, keep using them. So here it's really quite solid, whereas back here I want this to all look as if it's actually blurry, like in a photo where it's slightly blurry in the background. And pan pastels are great for that. So again, I'm collecting the colours. They're not the cheapest, as anyone who has tried to buy one and has gone into shock trying will know. They're not cheap, but they do last a good while, actually, and they're very, very good quality. Now, these three here, I won't swatch those individually because I've bought them for a purpose, and that purpose is mixing my own green ink out of them. And that is here. This is said own green ink. Let me use one of these Princeton brushes. As you can see, I want that deep, dark colour. And that's the colour that I mix. Let me show you that. Hopefully no shine on it. There is a bit. Sadly, lights are needed. I will mix that ink from those three colours, and I do the same with my watercolour. I've got watercolours that I use, I've got gouache that I use, and I mix the same green. Actually, no, not watercolour. I haven't done that yet because I found a few that are pretty close and I don't need to. So sorry about the misleading there. But also this brush is nice, because why I like these brushes is if you have a lovely brush like this that's all dainty and ladylike and you start scrubbing with that, you will ruin it within days. But this one is designed to do that with. It's not washed very well either. It'll have another go in a minute. You're supposed to do this and it comes back to wherever, and you can dab with it and do, you know, stipple with it and do all sorts of fancy special effects. And if it gets a bit fluffy, it doesn't matter. It's a scumbling brush, and what I've just done here is technically known as scumbling. So thank you very much to my patrons for recommending that. Next thing, we've got the watercolors. Right, start with a win. We'll celebrate by having a new page. How's that? Live dangerously. This is Pale Rose Blush Gouache. So watercolor, yes, technically, but actually gouache. I like that. That's going to have a nice home. Again, it's one of these neutrals that's warm and can really look amazing in a scene. Still on the Winsor & Newton. This one is Perylene Black. Nothing like dirtying your lovely green water. Yeah, looking at green, saying green, looking at wallpaper and saying wallpaper, good grief. Nothing like dirtying your lovely clean watercolour than gouache. That's really nice. That's a deep green. The problem I've got with it is it's not quite the right green. This one that I mix is a more brown green, whereas that is a more blue green. But I tell you what, it's damn close and it's very nice. So I'm not sorry that I've spent money on it. That's a watercolour. Let's keep those, and I'll get some clean water for those at the end. This one is Lichen Green. Again, it's Lichen Grey, actually, sorry. Lichen Grey, and it's a nice neutrally warm grey, which I've got 3 or 4 times. So now I've got it 5 because I like this one as well. I'll use them. This is the thing. I will use them. And the other thing is I can get to try them. I can tell my students about them. I can use them so people can see them being used. And then if I don't like them, I don't buy them again. So it's all for the greater good. Ash Blue by Holbein. Holbein is always quite a nice brand, actually. That's nice. You can see the colour palette here that I favour most. This one is grey number 3. yeah, this dark and moody business. Grey number 3. Also nice. Also on the warm side, it's got yellow in it. Which is, I even use warm colours when I'm painting snow because I prefer that. Gosh, that will be a mad scramble for the lid directly. Smalt blue, I think. Yes, it is. Particularly nice. And as you'll notice, I use these quite watered down. I've always done that with, oh, luckily it didn't drop too far. I've always used gouache that way, more like an opaque watercolor than a paint in its own right. And that works for the style of layering that I do. This one is pink, Holbein pink. Oh dear, no. No, 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 no. Oh my good Lord. Okay, anybody want a tube of pink paint? That's absolutely awful. That is the worst colour I've ever seen in my life. What does it do when you put green with it? Yeah, see, I would do that. Just mute it down with a bit of green. Oh my God, that's dreadful. I was about to say that Holbein are really good with their pinks, and then that. Brilliant pink. That's probably going to be worse. No, this is nice. It's okay, everybody. Don't call the SAS. This one's the one I wanted. I don't remember ordering that one, but obviously I have because here it is. But this is the one I wanted. I really like this pink. It works well with these other colours, and there's just nothing that I can use that for. It's vile, but like I said, I'll mix it. I'll use other colours to mix with it and bash it back into shape because, oh my God, how awful can you get? Right, I'm going to go and have a little lie down because that was just too much for me. Sorry, God. Here at Overreactors Are Us. Next door is Overthinkers Are Us. I'm president of both clubs. Right, I'm going to go and get some clean water so that we can have a look at some watercolours and, yeah, erase the memory of that pink forever. It's just nothing right about that. Here we are, back with some nice clean water. Let's start with these Magello colours because these are just lovely. And I wanted to sort of put some yellows together. It's a bit granular. Usually like that. Perhaps it's the first bit out. So like I said, it needs plenty of room and it needs plenty of water. So it's granular rather than granulating, but it's a nice yellow. Very curry yellow, actually. That's yellow, brown, or gold, brown, yellow. This one's ochre yellow. Again, all of these colours, sorry about my arm there, if I move that might be a bit better. All of these colours that you find in the natural world, that's what makes me feel quite happy. This one just looks like mud, which is good too, because that's another one of those sorts of colours. It's not enjoying its life on this paper, to be fair. What I might do is swap the paper in a second. I've got some regular watercolours here. Then I'll get a piece of watercolour paper and put these on properly. Although, to be fair, they are going to be used on just regular. So this one is Red Flame. Okay, sort of like an Indian yellow vibe. And again, plenty of water, which this paper doesn't like very much. I'll get some watercolour paper, I think, and show you those as well. Then we have the Van Gogh Buff or Titanium Buff. Again, hand-picked for its ability to disappear into the background if required. That's perfect. Got some pink in there. That's not perfect, but it'll be fine. Yeah, it's a really nice brand, that, actually. I've got quite a few of their colours now. This one looks very similar to the first gouache up there. It's a bit darker. Another Van Gogh watercolor. Nice as well. I mean, quite often it depends what you're going to do with these things as to how nice they are and how well they're going to fit in. But everything has its place. Yeah, these Mijello Mission paints do not like this paper. Mind you, not much does. And to be fair, I don't work on this paper. It's quite a sticky green. This one is azomethine green yellow. Feels quite sticky compared to other watercolors, but it's a pretty green. That's nice, and that will get a lot of use. And last but definitely not least, we have Mars Violet, which is a Holbein colour, threatening to come out as I speak. Quite a few of them do that. Let's get the lid back on that while we've still got some in the tube. Nice. I'm always on the lookout for these Caput Mortuum colours, and that's very, very similar to my beloved Caput Mortuum. Nice to have a different take on it. And what I'm going to do, in all fairness to these others, is I've got some watercolour paper here and a bit of a corner. Let's see what they can do when they're given the conditions that they like most. Got a bit of roughness to this one. Right, so let's start again with gold, brown, yellow. I tend not to make too smaller swatches either, as big as I possibly can when I'm working in my wherever I make a swatch, because like I said, these need a bit of space, they need a bit of water, and they need plenty of bullying. Sometimes they'll take a bit of bullying where you can actually push them around with the brush until they get going. This one is the yellow, ochre yellow again, which is not anything of the sort, but it's a useful colour all the same. Yeah, very good for filling in. Yes, this one's very granular. It's got tiny little particles in it, which none of the others have had. I'm relatively new to this brand and enjoying exploring it, actually, and I do love it. So I can see most of it coming into my kit. And that is the Flame Red, which is going to pair up with that one. The middle one's a little bit better. Why don't we dry that off a bit? I'll just use my heat gun here. Yeah, the middle one's a little bit better. The other two are sort of... The red one looks like it quite like to granulate, but a little bit of texture's fine. But this one is really quite gritty, not granular. More gritty. This is only very light texture on this paper. Normally what they like best is the really heavy cold press stuff, and this is not. This is a nostalgia watercolor sketchbook, and it's not terribly textured at all, actually. It's just a little bit, if I can show you with this pencil, it's just a little bit too textured for fine detail in a lot of paintings. So I tend to use it for other bits and pieces, but no, they're all right. I like them as colours anyway. Whether they granulate or not doesn't worry me terribly. If they do, I love that. But I've always not used watercolour. That hasn't been my first sort of go-to thing because of all the layers that I put on. Like, you can't see what I've put down first in some of those paintings, but it's necessary because it fills in the white of the paper and it allows you to do your different layers. Because with mixed media, we've got a layer system. Basically, you start with the first layer, which is defining your large shapes. Then you go to the second layer, which is refining them. And then you go to the third layer, which is detail. Now, there might be 6 or 7 stages in each of those layers. And you can end up, I've got sometimes about, I think, anything up to 11 layers of stuff by the time I've added everything in. And all of the things that you've seen in today's art haul to a regular painter would be a waste of time. You think, well, why don't you make up your mind? What are you going to be? Are you going to be a watercolor artist? Are you going to work with colored pencils? Are you going to do pen and ink? What is it that you want to do? And that's the thing I love about mixed media, is I can be all of these things. I can do what I like, but I'm a jack of all trades, master of none, one might say. And that's true to a certain extent, because of course I'm not trying to be a proper watercolor artist. I've been an artist of some sort for, well over 40 years now. And yeah, I started out like everybody else as a pure watercolor artist and a pure oil painter. I did all of those things, and then acrylic. And when I went to school in Australia in the 1980s, if you had said to the teacher that you want to do mixed media, he would have either A, assumed there was something wrong with you, or B, told you, don't be silly, that's not a thing. It was very weird. So I'm only so happy now that I can be what I like, and as can everybody else. And I can use all of these things, and I certainly will use all of these things in one way or another. So yeah, really quite happy to have them here in the kit. So over the next couple of weeks, you'll see them in use. And yeah, I've got to put them all away now. That's fun too. I enjoy that, actually packing away and seeing how they fit into their little families. But for everything else, thank you so much for spending this time with me. I've really, really enjoyed your company. And don't forget, like I said, leave a like and subscribe if you would like to. And you'll see, then hit the little bell icon and you'll see all of my videos for your sins. And if you like my teaching style and my art style and would like to know, have a sort of curiosity as to how all these things are going to be used, do please consider joining my Patreon. And I would absolutely love to have you over there. Nice community, best one on the internet in my humble opinion. Really friendly, supportive people. So good place to hang out and learn some art. I'll see you next time. Bye for now. Bye.